Hello, everybody. It's that time of year, sweet pea season, and we've got an amazing guest. I'm so delighted to welcome to the Slow Flower Show, Marryn Mathis of the Farmhouse Flower Farm. Hi, Marryn.
Hi, Deborah. Thank you for having me.
It's so great. This little sweet pea seed of an idea was germinated when I got to come visit your farm last fall with my friend Jillian Matthews through the Northwest Horticultural Society. And I was so thrilled to meet you. I'd known of you. I think we just kind of immediately recognized each other and
Yeah.
had a chance to. In fact, I found the photo of us together, so I'll put it in the show notes. Um, but that was in late September, early October. I
Yeah.
can't remember. You were showing
It's
off.
been a while.
You've been showing off dahlias, and um, I mentioned to you that I have memories of walking past the sweet pea uh, region of your farm, but there really weren't a lot of sweet peas to see. So this is
No.
good. That's your other. It's almost like you set your business up to have these complementary seasons with sweet peas and then dahlias. I don't know if that was intentional or not.
Totally unintentional, but I love it.
I love it too. Well, we're here to talk about Sweet Pea School, the growing and arranging the garden's most romantic blooms. Your brand new book out February 25th. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited. It's almost here.
Yeah. Well, I want you first to kind of talk a little about, just give us a little snapshot of the Farmhouse Flower Farm. You're in Stanwood, Washington, I believe. Is that considered Snohomish County or Skagit County? You're like on the border practically, aren't you?
Yeah, we're practically on the border, but we're considered Snohomish County.
Okay, north of Seattle, and but not too far north, and which we know everything grows well here, but people still have a lot of challenges with sweet peas, and that's become one of your specialties. I think your press material crowned you the Sweet Pea Queen, or maybe your students did. Tell me about that.
The students actually started the whole Sweet Pea Queen thing, and you-
I love
I
it.
just have to, yeah, I love it. I just have to giggle at that, but yeah, it's such an honor.
You know, I get called the godmother of the slow flowers movement, which is better than the grandmother of the slow flowers movement. So as long as you're not queen mother, you're still like, royalty,
Yeah,
but not elderly royalty.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah. Anyway, I got off topic. So the Farmhouse Flower Farm, you said are you like in your seventh season?
Yeah, so we started in 2018, so this is going into year 7, year 5 here on this farm, and we sell dahlia tubers, seeds, bulbs. I do online education, do workshops, that kind of thing, and it's just kind of taken off in a way that I never would have imagined when I started doing this.
Okay. So true confessions. Did you have a business plan when you started?
No.
Who does? Anyone in the creative professions, we're all like flakes on that one, right?
When I started out, I originally wanted to do farmers markets, weddings, and I don't do either one.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Did you dabble at the beginning?
I did weddings. I
Okay.
didn't end up doing farmers markets. I had some florists and, loyal customers that, bought my flowers in those first early years. And then it just kind of morphed into, we have a farm stand here on the farm and we sell spring, cut flowers. But it's just kind of, as our family has grown and evolved, we've what's healthy for our family and what's best for our family with young kids has actually turned into the bulbs and the seeds and the tubers, just because when COVID hit, everybody turned to gardening.
Yep.
And they started, people want to grow these things in their own gardens. They're seeing all these beautiful photos, but they want to grow them themselves, and so we're here to help them do that.
I just want to pause and say when I came to your farm, it's a charming farmhouse, and I think people will see one photo of it in the slideshow that we're going to go through momentarily. But there is a like a one car garage right up on the road. Is that where your farm stand is?
Yeah, and it used to be, back in the day, it was a Model T garage. And so when we bought the farm, it literally had the rails that you drive the car into. And, we had to obviously remove those because those were kind of a tripping hazard for customers. But
Right.
um, but yeah, there's so much charm and history here on the farm that, it was, when I saw it for the first time, I knew, I was like, that is the farm stand. That it was just absolutely perfect to grow flowers. I saw past all the overgrown bushes and the boat that was out in the field. And I just saw through all of that. And I already saw the field of dahlias, and that this is where we were meant to be.
I love it. Yeah. So anyone else would be like, a one-car garage right by the street, blocking my view, tear it down.
Yeah.
But how much acreage do you have?
We have 10 acres here.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
And you did share the story of how you found this. It's almost like your forever farm. When I was on the tour, can you give us just a little short version of that? It's very romantic.
Honestly, I look back on it and I still can't believe it's just a dream. But when we decided to become flower farmers, again, this is the cut down version, but when we decided to be flower farmers, we were looking for a little white farmhouse on acreage in North Stanwood, and that just wasn't available at the time. And so we decided if we couldn't find the dream, we were going to build the dream. And so we bought 5 acres on Camino Island, which is not too far from here. And we started building a house. We moved into a 28-foot travel trailer, and we had started building our dream home. And one night something told me to check Redfin, and I did. And it was the second house on the list. And long story short, we stopped construction on the farmhouse on Camino Island and got our little white farmhouse on acreage in North Stanwood.
Mm. So brand new construction on an island versus this elderly house that maybe has a little wear and tear, closer to the freeway. But I mean, it's not about the location necessarily, because I know that the growing zones are probably pretty similar between Stanwood and Camino Island, or are they?
Our Camino Island is, closer to the water, so it's actually, a little bit warmer out there. We actually have like a little microclimate here where we're at. So whenever the forecast, will say, like right now it's 25 degrees, we always prepare for, at least 5 degrees cooler than that.
Mm-hmm.
So
but it was like the character and this dream you had of the little white farmhouse that you just knew it was calling to you.
It honestly, from the time that I pulled into the driveway, the first time that I came onto the property, I knew this was home. I knew this was home. Yeah.
That's
our
wonderful.
house is built in 1901, and it's just, it needs a lot of work. We haven't done anything to it yet because we've been putting all of our energy into getting the farm up and running and all of the infrastructure in and all that kind of stuff. But it's coming. So, but that's I wouldn't change this place for the world. I think I honestly had to live in the trailer first, Deborah, to appreciate, the farmhouse.
That's so true. I hadn't thought about that. But also, of the 10 acres, you're not farming all 10 acres, but you keep expanding what you do use for all your seed production and tuber production, right?
Yeah, every year it kind of grows a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. But yeah, so we have 3 greenhouses, and then total acreage that we farm on is just under 2.
Okay. Wow, that's great. And that old barn, was it there?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was actually, believe it or not, it was in the southbound lanes of I-5 way back in the day, and they put it on logs and rolled it up the hill to where it is now.
So that the freeway could go through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, I love these stories. That's great.
I know.
Okay, so I will go back to saying that your shift from all these things you thought a flower farmer should be doing, like farmers markets, like weddings, and maybe more direct to florist or direct to consumer sales, it sort of became apparent that it didn't fit your family lifestyle, but maybe also wasn't making your heart sing. How did you dabble in seed and tuber production and teaching? What was your first foray into that?
So the teaching actually really surprised me the most, to be quite honest with you. So when I took the jump from, being in corporate America to being a full-time flower farmer, I started teaching. I had a few years under my belt. And so I started teaching, because everybody was asking me about my sweet peas in particular. And so I thought, okay, well, I'm just going to, share my information. And I got so much energy from sharing my love of flowers that I was literally shocked. And I felt, I was so nervous and scared to get up in front of people and talk. And, what did I have to share? I'd only been doing this for, a few years and all this kind of stuff. And it completely changed my life, to be to be honest with you. And that's where Sweet Pea School came from.
Wow.
Was those early workshops, and that's what I called it, was Sweet Pea School.
Well,
And
that's amazing because,
yeah,
it's just interesting. A lot of people teach basics of flower farming, just a whole year in one workshop. You're like, no, 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 we're going to do one workshop for one specific cultivar. And I'm
yeah,
sure, and those workshops were like a couple hours long, or
they were like 2.5 to 3 hours long. Yeah.
yeah, no stone unturned.
I can talk about flowers all day long, every day.
But to be honest, were there other books about sweet peas? I mean, you've probably combed the literature of what is
Oh yeah.
available.
Yeah. I mean, there's not a book like this one. That was my kind of like my thought and my mission behind it all, is that, there were very scientific books about sweet peas.
Okay.
And Roger Parsons has written a beautiful book, on sweet peas. But I wanted to create something that was not only beautiful, but that was really relatable to so many different flower lovers and gardeners, and also inspiring. And so it's just a mix of everything, my journey with flowers, the different types of sweet peas, everything that I know about sweet peas, all of my tips and tricks. They can be challenging to grow in, as in those, more difficult environments, and just, incorporating those into arranging and what my favorite varieties are. So I just wanted to create something beautiful to get more sweet peas out into the world. And that's the whole thought process behind it.
Well, we have a little bit of a slideshow. Why don't I put that up, and then you can kind of walk us through some of the facets of it. First of all, this photo, how tall are you and how tall are these sweet peas?
Well, I am 5'3.5". We cannot forget the half.
Okay.
But these sweet peas, they're about 8 feet tall.
Wow. Wow. You look like Alice in Wonderland. Or The Secret Garden. It's just so magical, that photo. And
thank you.
The glow that comes from the backlighting behind all this green and pink and white. It's stunning.
This is one of my, well, you're probably going to hear this a lot, but this is one of my favorite images from the book. And I think it really encompasses so many things. The wonder that I feel for these flowers, just how beautiful and how magical and romantic they are, how lush they are. And, this is a sneak peek into my classroom. This is my happy place. This is where I'm inspired and where I learn. And it feeds my soul. And so I feel like this photo says so much without saying a word.
It's like, welcome to my world.
Yeah, seriously. Yes.
And your students,
absolutely.
your customers who buy your seeds, and now your readers, that's what they're, it's the aspirational component of it. Like, oh, I want that in my life. Even if it's just a small row, they're going to get that kind of sensory experience.
Right. And there's nothing like sweet peas, just being totally engulfed in those, just those green walls, and just, watching the flowers just dance in the breeze. There's nothing better. So just, not only sharing my love of sweet peas, but also, how to grow them and how to be more successful at them, so that they too can experience this. And you don't have to grow sweet peas in long rows like we do here on the farm. I mean, you can, grow them against a fence or an existing arbor, any place that you can, think of, sweet peas, can grow. So, I honestly, and this photo, the cover shot, just has so much charm. And this is one of my favorite varieties, Castle Welland, on the left-hand side. And this was 2 years ago, and I just kept coming back to this spot in the garden. And I just found myself just constantly being attracted back to this spot. And, I just absolutely love this shot. So I was hoping this would be the cover.
And the little picket fence is sort of back to, I mean, Yes, there's a picket fence at the Farmhouse Flower Farm.
Of course
Um,
there is.
so the book, the public relations material is really intriguing because it says this gardening book is a masterclass in the beloved sweet pea bloom, and you've included the history of sweet peas, best practices for sowing, planting, growing, and harvesting, step-by-step instructions for floral design with sweet peas. You have a color organized or overview of popular varieties. And then you, of course, weave in your personal stories. So that's why I like that you've added the table of contents here so people can see how comprehensive it is. It's not just, a lot of these plant specific books or genus specific books are very much a catalog of,
Mhm.
varieties, colors, and I guess growing habit or whatever. And now you've given people a lot more to bring them up to speed on what they can expect with sweet peas.
Yeah, the thought behind how the book is laid out is, sharing my story. How did I come to love them? Why are they my favorite flower? And then, sharing with people why I think that they should grow them if they haven't grown them before. And, just kind of giving them, that little, why should I give them space in my garden, and giving them all of those reasons why. I think they should be grown in every garden, but personally, but if they're limited on space, sweet peas are a great option. They grow vertically, not horizontally.
It's true.
And yeah, it's so true. So it's just kind of, the step-by-step process on taking the reader through the journey with, I'm not just going to jump into, tips and tricks and, the growing advice, but I just really want to take them through the whole thought process behind sweet peas. And then we dive into growing. And then what do you do with them? And then you arrange with them, right? And then, once I really suck them in and, and they're like, where, I can't get enough of these, then I give them all the varieties that I think that, are just showstoppers. And then, it's
Yummy.
up to them. Yeah.
Well, let's go on to the next slide because this is a special one.
This is a very special one. So when I started growing sweet peas and I started teaching Sweet Pea School workshops, so many people talk to me about their memories with sweet peas, and so many people have a connection with these flowers. And 9 times out of 10 it was grandma's garden. And so this is my grandma. And this is Beverly Anne, and she passed away. It'll actually be 2 years almost to the day that my book launches.
Wow.
And so she was in the hospital, and my contract with Chronicle had just come in. And so it was just her and I in her hospital room. And I told her about the book. And her last words that she spoke to me was that she was proud of me. And so that was just a really special moment that I was able to share with her. So I knew that I wanted to do something, and this had been in the works before that, but that I wanted to do something. We were very, very, very close. And so I actually purchased the naming rights for this blue sweet pea that you're seeing from Roger Parsons. This is one of his new introductions at the end of 2024. And this is Beverly Anne, named after my grandma. So her memory lives on in the flowers.
Oh, that's so special. I love it. And the flowers that she's holding, is that a collection? It's not just one variety, right?
That is what inspired my granny's garden mix. So that's one of the mixes that we sell on our website. But this was the first time that she had ever, smelt my sweet peas. And so she lived in Kentucky, so it was quite a jaunt, but I was able to get these on the plane, fly these back to her. And I'm so glad that I was able to get this picture with her just burying her nose in my sweet peas.
That's so special.
Yeah, it's so special. So special. So I was able to tell her about her flower before she passed, and she was just absolutely tickled to pieces. So I just, my grandma had a connection with sweet peas, and so many others, that I talked to. It just, just smelling them takes them back to their grandma's garden, or, just it invokes such emotion, and, just that smell of sweet peas.
I read once years ago that Scent or smell is the strongest of the senses. So, um, you know, people who are listening to this know exactly what you're talking about.
Oh yeah.
That fragrance transports you to maybe the first time you smelled it, or a
Mhm.
childhood memory, or
It's just there's nothing
yeah,
like it. I mean,
so
it just
special.
yeah, it's so special.
Mm, I love it.
So that's yeah, so this was
And
a very special
yeah,
thing.
yeah, and Beverly Anne is available then. Are you selling
Yeah.
it, or is this other breeder selling it?
So Roger Parsons was selling it, and unfortunately, he's no longer sending seed to the U.S. because of so many customs issues this year. That's
Oh
actually
dear.
just a new thing that he announced. I think it was last week. So so I've been growing this out. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll be able to sell seeds of it this coming fall.
Okay, great. Oh yeah, because you have to get your inventory
Yeah.
up to point. Okay, great. You just finished your seed shipping, you said, your sweet pea seeds shipping.
Yes.
But generally the sale starts in the fall. Tell us just a little bit about that for people who don't know.
So we do two different seed sales a year. We do one in the fall and one in early January. So that way we can, um, contour our sales for those people that have to fall sow their sweet peas,
Got it.
because some people in the warmer climates need to fall sow and they cannot wait until winter sowing. And then also we have our larger seed sale in January, where we have our full entire lineup of sweet peas.
Okay, so the next time people can get on board is for fall of 2025.
All of
And
2020.
yeah, and do they need to go on to your website and maybe join a mailing list or a wait list? How do you do that?
So our newsletter, you can sign up for our newsletter, and I send, out all the details to our newsletter subscribers ahead of time so they know all of our sale dates and all the things that are up and coming. So that's really easy to do. It's just on our website.
Okay,
You can
good.
sign up. And yeah, it's honestly, the response has just been absolutely incredible. So
That's great.
um, yeah.
I'll make sure we share the Farmhouse Flower Farm website link and also social places. And I do have to make a comment about the fact that, you know, a packet of seeds is a very affordable way to explore a new floral variety. So you make them very accessible, and I think that's another reason why people feel so enthused about experimenting. Is it's not like buying a $500 tree and hoping it lives. You you have a very low risk to experiment with sweet peas.
Yes, absolutely. The seeds themselves are, quite quite expensive compared to, you get 10 seeds per packet for sweet peas. But what you get in return for them, and they're so easy to save seed off of. So I always tell people, if you're wanting to start to save seed or even investing in, next year's garden, start with sweet peas.
Okay. That's really
That's
great. Great. It's great that you're giving people permission to basically stop buying from you.
it's probably not, but honestly, there's nothing better than investing in next year's garden, right? And, whether it's a new variety or you want to, grow the same variety next year, yeah, it's
That's
so
great.
many people are collecting seeds. I think it's a great thing.
Oh, I love it. That's right. Well, let's go on to the next slide.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. The dream field. I love it.
Yes. So this was the first year, this last season, that we actually put sweet peas out into our main field. In the past, I've always tucked them, beside our barn where they're behind a fence, and I could, feel like I could protect them a little bit more. And they were kind of given shelter from the trees on one side and the barn on the other side. And we grew so many sweet peas last season. So we grew 32,000 last year. And we grew so many sweet peas that I kept telling my husband, okay, I need a couple more rows. I need a couple more rows. I need a couple more rows. So we ended up having to like shove the dahlias down a little bit and move them down. And so this whole area was actually dahlias 2 years ago. And this year it was sweet peas. And I thought we had a lot of visitors that would drive by the farm with the dahlias. And it blew my mind how many people were stopping at the sweet peas. You could literally smell them on the road.
Hmm.
And it was just absolutely incredible. So we will always grow sweet peas out here in the main field from now on.
When we had the meetup this morning, a lot of questions came up about the posts and the netting and the spacing. Can you just sort of and it doesn't sound like there's one specific way to do it, but can you describe what people are seeing here?
Sure. So our rows out in our existing flower field are 3 feet wide and they're 100 feet long. And so we use T-posts and rebar as our support system. That actually kind of came to us by trial and error in my first year of flower farming. We used a 5-foot T-post and we put up some Horton Nova netting, and I thought, well, we're good. Well, within like a month and a half, they had already, overgrown that. And my husband's background is in construction. And so he immediately thought rebar. So that's where we came up with the concept of our T-post and rebar combination. So every 10 feet, we will put a 6 to 8 foot T-post. And then in the elbow of that T-post, we put a piece of rebar and we tie wire them together. And then we put those every 10 feet. And then we connect our Horton Nova netting. We actually get an 8-foot roll of it from Johnny's. And it's really, instead of putting, 2 4-foot panels together, it's just really clean and sleek the way, with the 8-foot roll.
So smart. Yeah.
It's kind of like a roll of carpet that we just kind of roll down the aisle. So we'll connect it at the end, and then we, connect it at every T-post down the way. And it works really, really well.
Mm. And you're planting on both sides of the netting for each row. So it's like a double row.
Yeah. So 1 row of sweet peas on either side of the netting.
I love it. The one other question that came up, I think, was about attaching to do you have to attach the vines to the netting, or do they naturally kind of find their way up to the top, or is it a little bit of both?
It's a little bit of both. So the sweet peas will actually they'll attach to the netting themselves, but the vines get so heavy, the taller and the thicker that they get, that you will need to give them some additional support, whether that's, so now with the amount of sweet peas that we grow, we corral ours. So we use baling twine, and then we'll tie it off on 1 T-post and then run it down, and just so they have that added support. Now, when I wasn't growing this many, I was pretty OCD about my sweet peas, and I would use twist tie wire, and I would tie each individual vine to the netting. Now, I did find that increased my stem length, believe it or not, because when you keep your sweet pea vines really taut to that netting, they don't really, if you think about it, they don't have anywhere to go but up and out. And so those stems, they're just going to be long and they're going to be straight, versus if you kind of, let them go to their own devices, that you're going to get those stems that are kind of kinked and, shorter, just because they're allowed to go wild. But for now, just because we're, more into seed production, we've kind of gone to the corralling method. Yeah.
It's really helpful to hear those 2 options, because the average person who's listening to this is probably not aspiring to grow 32,000 sweet peas. And
right.
So that tip is, say you only have 40 plants, that's doable to
totally
tie them up.
doable.
Yeah.
Yep. And especially if you're growing them for cut flowers, that's the goal, right? Is long, straight stems. And if you can keep them, I like to teach I like to say that I want to show my sweet peas who's boss, right? so I just, keep them taut to the netting. And like I said, it results in longer, straighter stems.
Yeah, that's really smart. And in fact, I think there's a bunch of in a couple photos of your hand holding a bunch, and you can see that the stems are at least 12, 15 inches long. They're getting a good stem length. This is a spread from inside the book, right?
Yeah. My goal with this was, sweet peas are not just a supporting, they don't just play a supporting role in arrangements. They can be the star of the show. And for me, they are the star of the show. And so I loved this arrangement that I did using just sweet peas and sweet pea tendrils. And I think it turned out beautifully. It's not just the flower. There's so much beauty in their foliage, in those tendrils. They just add so much whimsy and magic, to arrangements and bouquets. So I really wanted to showcase that as well.
Yeah. I love it. Even on the right photo, are you seeing little seed pods in there as well on the vines? So gorgeous. But you're right. They kind of have, been relegated to an accent flower or just a mixed bunch to put in a mason jar, as you said. But this is a really elegant design in a footed compote, and you could see that in a centerpiece at a wedding easily.
Mhm. Oh, easily
Love
on
it.
a guest book table. I mean, just you can see that anywhere.
Yeah, could be the bridal bouquet, for goodness
Yeah.
sakes.
Oh yeah, I'd do it.
Oh, for your own wedding, you mean?
Yeah. Maybe there's a vow renewal in my future.
Oh, wow. Well, this is another great example of how tall your vines are getting. This is amazing.
Yeah, this is a variety called Wild Swan, and I mean, it's one of my favorites. People ask me to pick a favorite, and I hate to even do that, but as far as whites go, it's such a beautiful variety, and this just really it captures just the romance and the glow of sweet peas. This was actually shot in the really early morning,
Mm.
and it's one of my favorite things to do. And I know so many people, you grab your cup of coffee and you go out in your garden, and this is what I do.
Mm.
And just to if whether you're watering or just enjoying the beauty before the farm wakes up, and it's just me and my flowers, and that's one of my the most special times for me,
I
for my
love it.
soul anyways. It does my soul good.
I I'm sold. I love it. I love that idea of maybe I need to plant more sweet peas. I really only have 2 trellises that are like 2 tour style, pyramid style trellises that I grow sweet peas on, which makes me feel like I'm really cutting myself short. I need to up my game.
You need to up
Uh,
your game, Deborah.
yeah. I mean, my garden is only really like 20 by 60 feet. It's a suburban backyard, so I'm not gonna get to your level, but I think that there's some practices that, you know, I could adopt even just with 1 row with these T-posts and the netting. I mean, that would yield, I don't know, how many plants in a row? It's just crazy how much you're cramming into this space.
Yeah. So, and spacing, it really can vary. So depending on, what you're growing your sweet peas for, if you're growing them for seed production, then obviously you want to give them more space, because that, more airflow means more seeds, right? But if you're growing them for cut flowers, the goal is more flowers, right?
Yeah.
So my first season, I was very meticulous in, the spacing, and I went by the book. And then my second year, I really got caught up in sowing the seeds, and like we all do. And I sowed way too many for my space. And I got to the end, and I still had 5 seed trays left to go and only 2 panels left. And I was like, what am I going to do? And so I just, I took my trowel and I just dug a trench, and I literally planted the plants right next to each other to where they were touching, and they did beautifully.
Hmm.
So, I don't be afraid. I always tell people, don't be afraid to fudge around and, plant your plants closer together. If you're growing for cuts, like I said, if you're growing for seed, it's a different story. But
Sure.
if you're growing for cuts, more flowers is the goal.
On the left, we're seeing your flats that you've started seeds. So do you start in cell packs or just open flats?
So I use 50 cell trays
Okay.
for our seedlings, and I like to call my sweet pea patch the high rent district. So I don't direct sow, because here in the Pacific Northwest, as you know, we can get really wet, and I want to be able to control how much moisture and just the environment that my seedlings are growing in. So this is a beautiful shot of, you can see the sweet pea patch in the distance. That's what we call the OG sweet pea patch. That was our first sweet pea patch here on the farm. And then these are all the seedlings that we still have to plant. But I just thought it was just a beautiful, shot of just the different stages of sweet peas. I mean, we don't get all these planted, within like a day or two. It's quite the process to get all of them in the ground. But then on the right-hand side is, a beautiful shot. Rainbows have my heart. I always plant my field in rainbow order, whether it's sweet peas or dahlias.
Love it. Yeah.
And you can see here, were filled with dahlias last year, and then we put sweet peas in them this last season.
This is a really good, because we don't see the flowers, we can see the architecture of the row structure with
Mm-hmm.
those posts and the netting, and then also your grassy rows in between, which it's you had an interesting point about the grass and what role it plays.
Yes. So we have a lot of clay here in our soil on the farm, and which means a lot of water. And we have had water issues in the past. So we just let the grass grow in. It's a mixture. Some people ask me, what kind of grass is it? It's just a mixture of grass and weeds. But it works as a sponge,
Yeah.
honestly. And we have had no water issues ever since we started doing this. Whereas, a lot of other flower farms, you'll see where they have like the landscape fabric in pathways, and that just didn't appeal to us, just because it doesn't help with the water. So we just let the grass grow in. We mow it every week and a half, sometimes 2 weeks if we're super busy, and it works beautifully.
That's smart, because then you don't have standing water,
Mhm.
which we get a lot here. I love it.
Yep,
Okay, let me go to the
absolutely.
next slide. Mm,
I know.
this is your rainbow palette.
This is my rainbow palette. So this was 2 years ago, and this was taken on top of a 10-foot ladder. And I could sit here all night and just watch the sun go down.
Mm,
I really wanted to capture for that home gardener and that flower lover, just um, what sweet peas can be,
yeah.
and just their potential. Um, and yeah, I absolutely love this shot.
What surprised me the most really is the time of year that, Marryn, that you said you shot this. You said it was
Mhm.
July?
The second week of July.
It's crazy.
Yep. Yep. So we do 2 rounds of seeding here on the farm. We do our fall sowing, and anything that we fall sow actually gets planted into one of our unheated hoop houses. And then we also do winter sowing, which is the majority of our plants that we grow, and those are all planted outside.
And
And we plant.
are they planted yet right now?
No, not yet. We've
Okay.
sown our seeds already for this season, but we won't plant out until mid March.
Okay. That makes sense because, well, first of all, it's probably a little too cold right now. You said it was in the 20s this week, or
Yeah, but so we we got down to 21 last night, and
wow.
believe it or not, in our unheated hoops, so our plants have, they've been in the ground for 2 months now, and I'm not protecting them with anything. Even at 21, I'm not putting frost cloth over them. I'm not doing anything. Sweet peas like it cool. Granted, 21 degrees is pretty cold, but they can handle a frost and a freeze. When they're established like that, and they've got some bulk to them, they can handle those cooler temps. So I know a lot of people like to think that they need to nurture these seedlings and keep them warm and all of this kind of stuff. But sweet peas are actually the opposite. They actually do better when they're kept cool.
Mm. And these are the ones that you planted what, in September, October, or
I started ours in late October, early
late October?
November.
Okay, so the reason that they're handling this extra cold environment is probably that they have good roots established already, right?
That's the key. Yeah. That's the key, is getting them established enough. But when they're established and they've actually had a chance to get settled into their environment, they can definitely handle that, no problem. Now, 2 years ago, I had an unheated greenhouse full of seedlings, and we got down to 16 degrees, and they were frozen rock solid.
Oh
And I
no.
remember walking into the greenhouse, and it was like I had the teacher on one shoulder and the grower on the other, right? The teacher in me knows that they're going to be fine. And the grower in me is like completely panicked, because you walk in and all of your seedlings are just like limp, and they're literally crispy. Like when you touched them, they were just, yeah. Within 2 hours, they were right as rain, and you would never have known.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because it warmed up enough when the temperatures rose that they kind of
Yeah.
perked back up.
Yep.
That's a great, almost like a case study to tell people not to panic, and
Yeah.
hopefully
Don't
things will.
panic. They have this reputation for being these fragile flowers, and the flowers themselves, yes, but the plants are so tough and resilient. And like you said, it's a testament to how strong they are.
I love it. Okay. A few more slides to wow us. You talk about harvesting and seed production. This is back to the fact that you're telling people how to buy your seeds, plant them, and then keep harvesting them for the future, which I think is very generous of you.
Well, and I think, there can be a lot of confusion, especially for cut flower growers, in what they're seeing on social media and what they're seeing, in books, because flowers photograph better when they're what we call fully blown, right? Which means that they're no longer in bud stage, they're completely open, and, that's not what you want to sell to your customers. You want to harvest your sweet peas when they have at least 2 buds on the end of each stem, because you want to make sure that your customer is getting the longest vase life. So that's, that's the thought, behind the harvesting and seed production. When to cut them for your customers. When do you let them start going to seed? Do you want to start letting them go to seed? How do you prevent them from going to seed if you don't want them to go to seed? And all of those things. So yeah, this was one of my favorites, just because that is such a question. When do you let them go to seed? And I always tell people it's really up to you. If you don't want them to go to seed, just keep cutting them.
Got it.
And if there's always those magical few weeks where, the dahlias are starting to bloom and the sweet peas, they're starting to fade, or, they're starting to set seed and fading, but they're still here. And so that's, I live for those. For those.
That's your happy place, when you can design with both.
When I can get both.
I love it. It's a charming photo. And I love the way you've kind of color blocked this wheelbarrow full of sweet peas, because I asked you earlier, so many sweet peas are sold as mixes, and which is fine, but some people really want just white sweet peas or just pink sweet peas, and they can get that from you because you have color specific varieties.
Right. Well, and so sweet peas, a lot of people don't know that they're what we call in the seed world as selfers. They do not cross-pollinate because they self-pollinate. So you can grow 2 varieties right next to each other, and you don't have to worry about them crossing with each other. Now, you want to make sure that you have, boundaries if you're collecting seed off of those, obviously, because the vines get pretty crazy and wild. But we grow everything as a variety, and then we make our mixes based on those varieties. So we sell mixes just because some people want to grow the mixes, but we actually grow them individually here on the farm.
Yeah, then you design or curate your mixes.
Exactly.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yep.
Here's another good example of that then.
Yes, absolutely. And people want me to pick a favorite or a favorite color, and I just can't, because they're so different but yet so similar, and they're just all so wonderful in their own way.
Would you say the photo on the left, Marryn, is kind of the full spectrum of what's available in the palette of bloom color?
It covers a lot, but it doesn't cover, there's so many blues and purples that are not shown in this photo.
And it's so dark at the end of that row, so maybe there's more.
It looks like a little black hole at the end. But yeah, I would definitely, there's more, blues and purples. But yeah, the only color that sweet peas do not come in is yellow. And that's due to its genetic complexity. I know sweet pea breeders are working on that kind of as we speak, but as to date, there are no yellow sweet peas.
You mentioned earlier that how many different varieties are you growing, and how many do you have in your seed catalog? Can you remind me of that?
So for our seed sale that we just had in January, we had 70 varieties of sweet peas available on our website. Last year we grew 136. So obviously there's still some that I'm working on building stock of, but I cannot get my hands on enough of them.
Wow. That's great. And sometimes you'll see catalogs or collections where there's maybe a dozen choices. So if someone really wants to nerd out, they've got to get in on your sale early, because they can have eyes bigger than their stomachs and have
absolutely. I know I do. I know I do, but yes, absolutely.
I love it. Oh, this is a great shot. This is what I saw. You reminded me. This is what kind of the level of sweet pea bloom that I saw when I came in the fall. One or two blooms were still hanging on.
Yeah, I know. When you pulled up and I saw that you were, you were the special guest, I was like, oh man, I wish I had sweet peas to share.
That's
But
okay. We're
yeah,
doing it now.
I know. So yeah, this is what the vines looked like, and this is what people don't see behind seed production is that you have to let them die. And as you let them die, and as they do that, their circle of life kind of thing. I mean, they're giving their seeds for next year's flowers. And so a lot of people ask me, when is the right time, to harvest your seeds? And I always say, do the scratch test. So you want to look for brown pods, just like the one you can see in the left side of the left photo.
Right above
And
your hand.
yeah, right above my hand. And I just scratch it with my fingernail. And if it sounds like sandpaper, 9 times out of 10, it's ready to harvest. So I always tell people too, like, don't be afraid to pop a few of those pods open to see, what they're doing, because depending on weather, depending on variety, some varieties mature, a lot quicker than others. If it's really hot, seed will mature a lot faster than, if it's cooler. So there's just, a lot of different things that you want to look for, when you're harvesting your seeds, but you want to make sure that they look, dark brown, just the way you planted them.
And when you open that seed pod, are you just kind of like popping it like at the edges? You put your finger on the top of on the bottom edges, or how do you do that?
So I actually will harvest the pod. I don't crack it open in the field. So I have a big brown grocery bag, and I just put all the pods into that. And then when we're done, then we'll collect all the seed and then we clean it.
And you do that indoors.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
I love it. The promise of next year. And I love
Yeah.
what you said. I love what you said about investing in your future farm or a future garden, because that's what this
Mhm.
is.
It's any time that you collect seed, whether it's sweet peas or not, you're investing in next year's garden.
Yeah.
And I love that. I just love that the garden gives itself towards,
Yep.
a brighter future.
Hang on, I got a little to jump the gun here a little bit. Here's another spectrum to see, kind of from the white to the blues and purples with the yummy pink in the middle. So in the book, how many varieties do you show people?
We have 9 different colorways, and then there's 7 varieties highlighted within each colorway. So we have our main featured variety within each color, and then we have the 6 supporting characters.
Okay.
So
Wow.
that way I wasn't picking one, I was actually picking 7.
Because you couldn't just pick one.
I couldn't just pick
The
one.
bouquet in your hand in the center is the one I think illustrates how long the cut stems are. I think that's a wonderful example.
Yes, and my longest stem to date has been 28 inches.
Okay. What
Yeah.
variety?
It was wild swan.
Okay, that white.
Yeah, it was a white. Yep.
Well, you look a little happy here, and
That's my happy place.
when you were showing me this earlier, you mentioned that the image on the right is your bestseller. Can you tell
Yes.
everybody what they're seeing?
So this is King's Ransom, and if you grow sweet peas or have been shopping for sweet peas, 9 times out of 10 you've heard of King's Ransom. It has kind of taken the sweet pea world over by storm. People are just grappling for this variety, and for good reason. It is an absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous variety. It morphs like unlike any other sweet pea that I've ever seen, and it just yeah, people are just that. I've literally had somebody be willing to pay me $100 for a packet of seeds.
Wow.
Just
That's why it's called King's Ransom, right?
yeah. So when we had our seed sale, so last year, I think we were one of the only farms in the United States that was actually selling it. And so I had my web designer take a video of the analytics behind the scenes. So when we have our sales, it launches all at one time. And So you see everybody that's logged onto the website across the whole United States is a little blue dot. So there's all these blue dots all across the country. And then when somebody places an order, it's like a firework. It sends a line from where that person is to where we are in Stanwood. And so we took a video, and it was just like the whole United States was exploding with all of these, fireworks. And so I always get a barrage of emails after the sale because this variety, King's Ransom, sells out in seconds because everybody's going after the same one. And so I just, I could grow, honestly, my whole entire farm, take away all the dahlias, take away all the other cut flowers, take away all the other sweet peas, and just grow King's Ransom and still not have enough to meet the demand.
Wow.
The people are in such, I thought the dahlia craze was real, but the craze for this sweet pea in particular is just, it's bananas.
The color is really dreamy. It's kind of like, I think of it as like a rosy terracotta, but you were saying that it has a kind of a phase that goes through color wise.
Yeah. So it starts out, you can kind of see it on the edges of some of the,
The
more,
petal. Yeah.
the blooms that aren't necessarily mature yet, but it starts out this creamy peach, and then it morphs into more of like this, brighter coral. Then it turns into this, just this dusty rose, and then it finishes a smoky plum. It is the most beautiful thing that honestly, I would just go in the hoop house this summer and just sit there and stare.
Well, and it's not there's so much nuance. There's so much dimension because of that gradation that's changing with, I guess, in response to light and temperature and maybe the maturity of the plant, right?
Yeah, it's just honestly, as it ages, it's like a fine wine. It just gets better with age. But I very rarely, cut our flowers just because, we are growing mostly for seed, unless I need photos. And so King's Ransom this year, I only took because I needed a new photo for the website. And so I, I shot the same handful, the same, blooms in so many different variables. And I would post them, and I had people saying, stop cutting your flowers, stop cutting King's Ransom, because they wanted the seeds so bad. And, little did they know it's the same blooms, just shot in different ways. But yeah, it's so funny. They're like, stop cutting your flowers.
So what's the story with this variety? How did it get on your radar, and where's it originally from? Do you even know?
It's originally from England. It was bred by King's Seeds over in England. And I got 20 seeds from Bailey or Delia Farm years ago. And once I saw it in the flesh, I was just so enamored with it. And so I collected every seed that I possibly could off of it. And I've just continuously grown it year after year.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's catching on like wildfire.
Wow. Okay. I have a friend going to the Chelsea Flower Show this year. I better task her with seeing if she can find some packets over there. Or do you think it's selling out in England as well?
I think it's more readily available in England, but it is selling out as well. It just, you can't get your hands on it fast enough.
I love it. Well, thanks for tempting us with that. I guess as I said, I'm going to put all the links to how people can buy from you in the show notes, but it's a bit of a lottery. It doesn't sound like there's any guarantee.
Especially with King's Ransom, and that's why we limit it to one packet per household so that more people can get it. Honestly, it's like Taylor Swift tickets for sweet pea lovers. It's just, yeah, so we've had to put a limit on it like we do on some of our dahlia varieties, but yeah, my goal is to get it out into as many hands as we possibly can. So
okay, that's good. That's very altruistic of you. I love it.
Well, I don't want somebody to swoop in and, just get it all. I would rather, yeah. So
you don't want the scalpers out there. You've got to be a true gardener to buy from the Farmhouse Flower Farm. You can't just be a speculator.
No, you could be both, but okay. yeah, for the fever of, my mother-in-law, she was so funny. She just like, she goes, I don't understand. She didn't understand like online sales and how they work, and just, the sweet pea craze and the dahlia craze and all the things. And so I said, okay, imagine you're at the beach and you've got a loaf of bread and you're surrounded by seagulls. And maybe this is a bad analogy, but I'm like, you're surrounded by seagulls. And I said, you just have to, and you throw the loaf of bread up in the air and you just pray that everybody gets a piece. I said, that's what it's like with King's Ransom.
That's a very perfect analogy. I love it. Tell us about this area the planting area in the slide here.
So this is the original sweet pea patch, the OG patch that I was talking about earlier. You can see our barns on the left-hand side. And this was this last season in 2024. And that year I planted this whole entire patch, which was our original whole patch, was just white, cream, blush, and peach this year.
Wow. So beautiful.
And yeah, so we're trying to fine tune our offerings to, really take a look at what the customers are buying. And there's a huge difference between, florists and designers and what they're looking for their events and arrangements versus, cut flower bouquets and home gardeners. So the designers and florists, they want the more muted tones. They want the whites and the creams and the blushes, and those light peaches and the real pastel colors. Whereas your home gardener gravitates more towards the brighter colors. So we're really trying to make sure that our offerings are, available to both of those, sides of the spectrum,
Sure.
so to speak. Yeah.
And then back to, like you said in the book, when you have the 9 different colors, so under the white or cream, you're calling out the 6 different best choices from your experience in that white category, in that blush category, in that pink category.
Yep. And in the book, which, because like I said earlier, I always plant everything in rainbow order. So in the book, the varieties are all featured in rainbow order as well.
Good. Makes it very user friendly.
Very visually appealing.
Here's the farmhouse and the farmers. I love this photo.
I love it too. We are truly a small family farm. And, I know we have a large, social media presence, and but this is us, and this really truly encompasses the farm, the family behind the flowers. And we did this photo shoot to unveil the title of the book. And so this was really fun to do. I mean, my husband might say different, but there was so much. I've never spent this much on balloons before, and there was so much fishing line that he had to tie 2 T-posts and all that to get, the letters to stand straight so you could actually read, what it was. And so I had a couple friends that actually drove by the farm while we were shooting this, and they were honking their horns, and, because I hadn't told anybody what the
There's
title
the
of
crazy
the book
girl.
was. I know. Yeah. So I hadn't told anybody what the title of the book was or what it was going to be. And we just kept coming back to Sweet Pea School. And there was, a couple other titles that we had kicked around, but, Sweet Pea School was the name of my workshop, or is the name of my workshop. It's kind of what people associate me with, and it just felt right. And so that's where the title from the book came. So
what's the status of Sweet Pea School now, the actual workshop, Marryn? How is that being offered? Is it on demand or?
So it's online via Zoom, and I do it live. And I just love the live aspect of it. And, it's so much more than a workshop to me. And I want my students to know that I am their biggest cheerleader. And I always tell them, I'm like, if you have questions, email them to me. Like, I am so invested in their success with sweet peas that it's not just, here, take my workshop and, you're off on your own. I am there right every step of the way, cheering them on. And I just love to share my love of flowers with them. I want to make sure that I get all of their questions answered. And the best part for me is going through the chat window at the end of the class and, just seeing what their questions are, making sure that everybody's question is answered, and just, seeing their feedback. And it's really fun. So we've had people, attend from all over the world, and it's a lot of fun to do.
When is the next one being offered?
The next one will be offered in the fall. So I do them in the fall and then also in the winter. Just again, for those people that need to start their seeds earlier, and then those that, won't be starting until the winter time.
Okay. Well, then that's another reason to sign up for your newsletter so people can find out about that. Here's how you can find and follow and learn more about Sweet Pea School, which is coming up in just a few days. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
It's really fun talking with you, Marryn, and we've already gone on for an hour, so I guess we better wrap it up. But I will be seeing you soon at the Northwest Flower and Garden Festival, and I think I would encourage people to watch social media because you'll post about appearances, book signings, and special events. Aren't you having a big kickoff party at Christensen's Nursery?
Yes. So my book launch party is February 22nd at Christensen's, and tickets are available on our website. And yeah, we've got lots of fun things coming. So if you're interested, sign up for our newsletter, and we'll keep you in the loop.
Thank you so much. This has been such a joy talking to you and sharing your expertise with the greater world of flower farmers and floral designers. Thanks so much. It was really great talking to you.
Thank you so much for having me. We'll see you soon.
Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.